Not far away, let's talk story. It's where my mama was born, it's where I come from, it's where my daddy fell in love not long ago.
Aloha everyone, this is Larry Camp, and welcome to the Nobody Knows Your Story podcast, which just happens to come with a side of Hawaiiana. Nobody Knows Your Story is a podcast which I believe will impact each listener in a positive way. As you listen to the experiences that have transformed, shaped, and guided each guest, perhaps you'll better understand your own personal journey. Some will surprise, some will make you question, and some will inspire, but all will leave you in a better place for listening in. As for the Hawaiiana, well, that's just a big part of my life story. So I invite you to check in from time to time, or better still, add Nobody Knows Your Story to your list of favorite podcasts. You'll enjoy hearing the life experiences of people just like you. Aloha, friends, and thanks for taking the time to listen to another great life story here on the Nobody Knows Your Story podcast. We just heard Iomai from Kiali'i Raichel. And mid-podcast, we're going to hear a Hawaiian version of the classic Take Me Home Country Road, performed by Israel Kamakawiwo'ole. Once again, I want to encourage you listeners to purchase the music of these great Hawaiian/Polynesian musicians. They work hard, and they really don't get a whole lot of recognition outside of the islands. So my guest today is a friend, but not a longtime friend. Dean Jamison and I met about 2 years ago, as I was able to recruit him to play on our tournament softball team. How was I able to recruit Dean, who grew up in Pennsylvania, to our traveling team? Well, I'm sure that just might come up in today's interview. Here on July 3rd, 2023. Dean, welcome to Nobody Knows Your Story.
Hi, Larry, and happy 4th of July to you.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got in the spirit right before you got here. I went and grilled up 3 hot dogs, and I haven't had a hot dog in many months, but there's something about the 4th of July that just traditionally, I think I've always had hot dogs, watermelon, corn on the cob, the same types of things. But that's just, it just makes me feel like I'm really in the holiday spirit. And without that, I don't know.
So coming from Pennsylvania, My heart's still there. Obviously, Independence Hall, Declaration of Independence, Valley Forge, Gettysburg, all those historic things and events. It takes a place in my heart that'll never go away.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were just talking yesterday about your trip up north to Orem, and I know that you participated in some sort of remembrance that they had going on there for the 4th of July.
Yes, they had a patriotic heritage festival in Sarah Park, and it's going on tomorrow as well as today. I helped do a setup in preparation for the event. And we got to attend, my wife and I, along with her sister and my brother-in-law, we got to attend some of the events. There's speakers that talk about what happened back in colonial days, the revolution, the patriots, what they gave in sacrifice just to make this country what it is today. So it was very enjoyable. If it didn't bring a tear to your eye, nothing will.
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how foreigners that visit America interpret us. And a couple of the takeaways are how crazy tipping is, because tipping is not typically a part of where they're from. And another thing was all the flags and, trucks with flags and people, how we just are so, I guess, in your face with our patriotism sometimes. And that could be regional too. It's not maybe like that everywhere, but certainly where we live, it is. All right, Dean. So listen, man, this is your story. I'm anxious to hear it. I know you, but I don't know everything about you. I'm going to learn some stuff today. So take it away, man.
So we'll touch base first on how you and I connected. Little mini story on that. So obviously we moved from Pennsylvania, my wife and I, back in 2017 to Cedar City. And my wife's a retired nurse, and Marilyn, and she got a comparable job offer to make the transition, which we had talked about moving west for quite a few years. So I basically said, if we're going to do it, when are we going to do it? And since she had family up in Orem, we're only a couple hours away. Let's do it. So we moved and eventually settled in Cedar City. I got a job in maintenance, working for the local hotels, played on the recreational softball team. And the recreational director, Jennifer Weaver's son, and I played on the same team. And luckily, when you called the rec center and talked with Jennifer, recruiting players, she knew me and she knew my capabilities. And you called, we talked, and the rest is history. We joined a team called Bad Attitude. We went to Vegas. We won the Vegas tournament at the 65 AA level in senior slow pitch softball. And then we went to, Flagstaff before that. We won the Flagstaff tournament, then Vegas. And then that qualified us for Florida, which is the Tournament of Championship, which we won. So that's quite a journey in such a short period of time.
Yeah. And I should say that when I was looking to recruit, I just was calling the cities that were maybe within an hour of us. So I called, Cedar City, I called Mesquite, Nevada. But when I called up and talked to Jennifer, she said, and I've told you this, yeah, there's two guys. One of them is Dean Jamison. Good guy, great player, good attitude. The other guy, yeah, not so much. And so I never even talked to him because, as you and I have discussed, that you want good softball players, but you also want guys that are good teammates because you're spending a lot of time together. When you go to these tournaments, sometimes we rent, like we did in Florida. 8 of us rented a big, huge home and stayed there for 4 nights together. You don't want guys that, are just not fun to be with. So, yeah, you fit in very well with the group, no doubt.
So I thank you for recruiting me.
Without you, that when you get to these tournaments, especially when you get at this high level, to win them, you really need contributions from every player.
Right. We had that balance.
Yep.
We had balance.
And if you and we've had tournaments before where we've had great contributions from maybe 7 or 8 guys, but 3 or 4 not so much.
Right.
You don't win them.
Nope.
So,
we had balance. The defense was there. Anytime we needed a hit, we got it. We needed to play. We got it. We got pitching, awesome pitching. It was fantastic. It was such an experience.
Well, for the 7 people that cared about our softball. They've heard our story now. But certainly that's a big part of our lives now. It really is. There's probably 2 or 3 days a week that we're out hitting or playing games, and like you say, every month or two we go to a tournament, and so it is a lot of fun. And if there's one thing, I think this is maybe my 98th or 99th podcast interview now, and if there's one thing as I interview people that are getting up there in years, meaning probably 60 plus, as you're thinking about retiring, or maybe you are retired, you need to have hobbies. You need to have things to do, whether it's pickleball, whether it's hiking, biking. I don't care if it's stamp collecting. The bottom line is you need things to do or you will just not be happy.
Yeah, you got to keep the parts moving, whether it's your mind or your body.
Yep.
So I was looking back through my scrapbooks before I came here for this discussion with you, mini interview. Lots of memories. And the number one memory is thankful to my mother, who took the pictures and was generous enough to give her time to 4 kids, which she raised on her own. It was a difficult youth, but a lot of fun. We had lots of challenges. Didn't have much to eat. I had hand-me-down clothing from cousins. That's a humble beginning.
It's a humble beginning, but you might want to also talk about, at least mention, you really didn't have a dad in the picture during those years, right?
Right. Yeah. My father kind of, I hate to use the word bailed, but he bailed out on us, four kids when I was about 8. My oldest brother was 10. My sister, 2 years younger, and then my younger brother, Jack. So Jill, Jack, myself, and Kim, the 4 of us. So my mother raised 4 kids on one salary. She worked 3rd shift at Reese's peanut butter factory. Did the hand labor on the line. And it wasn't easy. And then she'd come home, take us to school, try and lay down for a quick nap, and then pick us up, make supper. And it was, she was not one of those people that loved hugs and kisses. But as far as loving and giving of herself, there's no woman that was, I can't give anybody any more credit than her. She taught us what to do, how to do it, gave us the desire to move forward. Don't let obstacles get in our way. Persevere. Determination. You get knocked down, you get back up. She had that toughness about her. All 4 of us have that in us.
Yeah, and I've heard you talk about your mom before. I know that she was certainly a positive force in your life, no doubt about it.
Right. So I don't want to dominate this conversation with the baseball, but this being my 57th, will be my 58th year playing ball since I'm 8. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Obviously, it's the thing I do. It's what I look forward to. It's pushed me. It got me to meet many people, play at different levels. Slow pitch, fast pitch, softball. 34 years of that. Hard ball. The teamwork, the camaraderie, just being with other guys, competing. It's so much fun. It's just, I don't know what I'd do without it, to be honest.
Yeah, and there's lots of life lessons that are learned on the ball field too. I mean, it's not always about the competing. I've already touched on the teammates and the getting along and the camaraderie. And sometimes you get heated out there. I mean, you've been there. I've gotten into it a time or two with my own teammates, Yeah. But at the end of the game, we're hugging each other and we know that it's just the heat of the moment. We want to win. And if there's something that we want to do to try to make it better, that's what we want to do. But yeah, there's lots of good lessons that come from sports and some lessons that you want to try to avoid too. So
you look back to my neighborhood, we had a great neighborhood, lots of kids. The house below us, Catholic family, they had 8 children. Some were older and in college and gone, but there was 4 or 5. That family, the Stackhowells, there was the Wangerts, there was 3 of them. Next door is the Regals. You remember the names, you remember the faces, you remember the good times you had. We had backyard carnivals. Whatever you could contribute, any kind of game you could come up with, we put that together and had a little backyard carnival. A nickel, a dime, a penny. You could compete or try this, throw a dart, whatever it may be. A lot of baseball in the cornfield. We converted an abandoned cornfield into a baseball field. There was a quarry behind my mother's house. about half mile away. We'd walk down to there, a quarry, and in wintertime, the water would freeze. So we'd ice skate. In the summertime, we'd hike. Had a neighbor that had a junkyard. My brother and I would collect the glass bottles. And a handful of us would go down to the quarry, climb these rocks, and put these glass bottles at different levels. And then you'd stand back 50 to 75 yards and take turns throwing rocks to see if you could hit these. Now, you probably can't do that today, environmental and so forth. But back in the day, you're kids. You're looking for something fun to do. That's a motion. That's a baseball motion, throwing rocks, accuracy. One of those little things you do. After that, progressed to junior high, high school. High school, I didn't really focus too much on my education. I was there to have fun. That's what I'm doing today, still having fun. But I can tell you one little trivial story. I went to half school VOTEC for small engine repair and half day of regular school. So we transport from VOTEC school back to the main school. Wednesdays was a 2-hour study hall. I didn't have any time to study. I just didn't focus. I was more of having fun. So I had this great idea, one of my genius ideas. I got this bag of marbles, about 100 marbles. So in our auditorium where we had the study hall, obviously it sloped high in the back and low in the front, like a regular stadium. Polished linoleum floor. The metal chairs of about, I think seated around 300 people were staggered. So they weren't evenly placed. So towards the end of the study hall, I had this great idea, and I had this bag of 100 marbles. So I laid them on the floor, tore the bag open, and just before the bell rang, I released these marbles, just let them start rolling. And you could hear the chink, 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 chink. So the three monitors, teachers, if you will, up front, would see these marbles going by. You see them turn their head left, turn their head right. And they know there's no way they could figure out who put these marbles on the floor. And I'm laughing quietly behind the seat. The bell rings and you hear a loud roar, just laughter from everybody in that study hall because it was just hilarious. So the plink, plink, plink. And I commented to my classmates. I said, so if you ever watch the show The Price is Right and you hear that game Plinko, that was probably originated from me. So I'll take credit for that.
Yeah, and that that's harmless fun, at least.
Harmless fun.
As long as nobody stands up and steps on a marble, right?
Exactly. Harmless fun, just fun stuff. So from there, then times were tough. The economy was bad. 1975, graduated high school. A lot of minority laws were passed where the employers would hire African American or Hispanic or whatever race. Being a white person, it was difficult to find a job. We were competing with a lot of different races, which is good. I mean, I understand it. It was good. But the other factor was at that time, we were getting out of the Vietnamese War, Vietnam. So there was a National Guard base a few miles away, and a lot of Vietnamese refugees were brought into that National Guard base and brought into the economy, the local economy. So now we had another factor, another competition, another race, which is, again, good. I understand. But it made things challenging. After speaking with one of those Vietnamese refugees that was hired where I worked at a factory, he told me that he was grateful to be in the United States and that he was given a 15-year free pass. Whatever they earned in their paycheck, they put in their pocket. Nothing went to taxes, nothing but cash in their pocket. So I won't say upset, but angry because I am working the same job he's doing, but all the money in my paycheck doesn't go in my pocket. It goes to the local taxes, personal taxes, school taxes, etc. So it's a little upsetting.
Yeah, and I can, now that we're older, we can see the reasons, why they did what they did in terms of giving that free pass, because these guys got here with nothing. I mean, probably the clothes on their back, and that was about it. So it's a way for them to kind of get a step up. But that's, like you say, you happen to be in a situation where you didn't have much either.
No.
So that's where, I mean, if you came from privilege and you had, your own car and you had everything, then that probably wouldn't bother you so much. But yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Those were tough times, it seems like tough times have been around all the time, but where you are when they're happening is whether or not it really affects you.
So I call them, there's times in life you recalibrate. Mm-hmm. You just take a step back and say, this is where I'm at now. This is where I want to be in 5 years, 2 years from now, a year from now, or what can I do differently? So at that time, because of the work, the jobs, tight economy, I decided to go in the Air Force. So I took my oath. 4 years later, I got out of the Air Force, military police, missiles in the missile field. And I lucked into a job at 3 Mile Island nuclear plant in Middletown, Pennsylvania, which a lot of people may know as the first sort of serious accident of nuclear power plant, which was TMI Unit 2 and not TMI Unit 1, which is where I was working.
Was there a movie, was it called The China Syndrome?
China Syndrome, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that was, it was great. It was my 4 years in the Air Force paid off. The economy got better. I got a good paying job and worked there for 20 years, 18 of those years in nuclear security. And you learn all about hostage negotiation, handcuffing, pepper spray for riots, protests, you name it, attacks. You're trained, you're ready to rock if the need arises. And after 4 years in the Air Force plus 18 years of carrying weapons and doing all the training, I kind of had my fill of that part of my life. So I got a associate's degree and then eventually bachelor's degree at 45 years of age and transitioned over to communications. Started a new career in that direction. And then if you recall, 9/11 came along, 2001. And I was at work doing my usual communications job. So my job was employee communications. And basically it was a weekly newsletter where I would produce about 8 to 10 pages of information, pictures, photos, and discuss what's going on at the plant. Some of the information from the higher ups, the president, vice president, whatever, what they want to communicate and convey to the nuclear plant and the people. When we got alerted to the strike on the trade towers, somebody had a TV upstairs. I don't remember where it was, but there was a TV upstairs in the administrative office. So we hightailed it up there and saw what was taking place. When that was occurring, as a communication, we had to decipher what was going on and communicate that to our employees. Because we only had employees at the plant, working the plant as it is in day shift, but we also have employees coming in for second shift, employees coming in for third shift. Is it safe for them to come in? Should they stay at home? Should we keep the people we have here now working extended shifts? What do you do? So there was a rumor that flight, I think it was 93, that crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, was actually targeting TMI-1. Now, I have not heard any truth to that rumor, but at that time, it was very real. A plane strike against a nuclear plant could be devastating. Mm-hmm. So we prepared for that. So when our day ended at 5 o'clock, the communications team, which I was one of, immediately transitioned to Harrisburg from Middletown, Pennsylvania, about 20 plus miles away, to open up our emergency communications center. There we interacted with the local news stations to give them updates on the status of the plant and, make sure everything's safe and stable and there's no worries. We ended that night of information gathering and sharing about 3 a.m. I got home at 4. Next day, I had to go back to work at 7. Another full day doing the same thing, just trying to decipher, keep panic away by providing timely information. So everybody knew what was going on, employees inside and the general public outside. Then that was the day, because I'm taking my bachelor's degree program, 18-month fast track program. We had class that evening. So I got off at 5 o'clock after that long, almost 2 days of work. And I called my instructor and said, I don't think I'm going to be able to make class. And I told her the story. And her response was, well, if you miss the class, it's probably going to dock you a grade. So I went to class. And that class is 4 hours long. So I finished there at 9 o'clock at night, got to bed around 10, and I'm totally exhausted. But what do? You go back to work the next day. At the end of the 18-month program, I got my bachelor's degree in organizational management. I was given the Perseverance Award by my classmates just because of what happened. And so I don't know if that says something about me. Apparently it does. Overcome, like I told you, my mother taught us to overcome, keep going forward, get knocked down, get back up. That drive, that desire, it's still with me today.
Yep, I agree, man. To say you got the Perseverance Award, I can see that. That's not a stretch at all.
But I'm actually, I'm kind of soft-spoken. I have a tendency when I'm around people to kind of calm them down. There's times I'll be talk with somebody. I'll say a few words, and next thing you know, they're talking to me for 20 minutes, a half hour, and I call it good therapy. I ask a lot of times. I'll say, "Do you feel better? Do you feel better now?" Yeah, and they do. Yeah, I'm a good listener. I don't always listen as intently as I should. Sometimes I just hear, but I try that. I'm trying to do that as I get older, to actually listen and interpret what's being said, not just hear. So that's one of my challenges in life.
Well, you learn when you're listening.
Yeah.
Almost heaven, West Bakaha, High Ridge Mountain, crystal clear blue water. All my friends there, hanging down the beach, young and old among them, feel the ocean breeze. Country road, take me home to the place I belong. Spakaha, Mount Kala, oh take me home, oh country road. I heard a voice in the morning, cause it calls me, as though to remind me of my home far away. Driving down the road, I feel spirits coming to me from yesterday, yesterday. All my memories hold heaven on high. Brown skin woman, clear blue island sky. Daytime sun shines, oh so bright. Midnight moon a glowing, stars up in the sky. Country road, take me home to the place I belong. Spakaha, Mount Kala, take me home, country road. I hear a voice in the morning, constantly calling, as though to remind me of my home far away. We driving down the road, I feel spirits coming to me of yesterday, yesterday. Almost heaven, West Bakaha, High Ridge Mountain, crystal clear blue waters. All my friends there, sitting on the beach, young and old among them, eating fish straight from the sea. Country road, take me home to the place I belong. Oh, Mount Carmel, take me home. Oh, country road, country road, take me home. Oh, to the place I belong. Mount Carmel, take me home. Oh, country road, country road, oh, take me home. Yes, to the place I belong. Mount Carmel, take me home. Country road, country road, take me home to the place I was born. Mount Carmel, take me home. Country road. Good for me back. White sand, clean water. Ooh, boy. Come on, smell it. Feel my country. What a place.
I am grateful for where I'm at. I have a wonderful wife. I'd say everybody, I don't know if she's lucky, but I'm lucky. She is a sweetheart. We are going to have our 27th wedding anniversary this July, 27th, which, as you know, I told you before, my number was 27 and still like to be 27, but because we have another gentleman on our team that carries the number 27 who's older and I respect him, I wear 57, which is my birth year on my uniform.
Yeah, and we should say that you also moved from Cedar City to here now.
Yep, St. George. Yes,
Yeah,
that's correct.
so I mean, it's great having you here. You were traveling down for practices and things, and I should say geographically, for those that don't know, Cedar City is about what, maybe 55
miles,
minutes,
yep,
something like that away. So I mean, about an hour.
Right.
By the time you leave and you get to the fields and stuff, so it's a pretty good commitment on your part to participate when you live there. So it was nice to have you make the move here. Well, gosh, about a year ago now.
Right. Yep. It'll be, September, we actually moved in. We built a house down Sun River to the 55 plus retirement community. This is the first new house for my wife, Marilyn. It's my second. But the whole movement from Pennsylvania to here, like I said, was basically for her to be with her family, because she was with me for 20 years in the East Coast, where my family's from. They all love her, but she missed her family. So we made that transition. And with this past weekend, again, we went up to see her sister and family up in Orem. And it's awesome. It's awesome to see that her and her sister just have time to interact with each other. It just makes me feel so good that we made this move.
I think most people, if they had a choice, would like to be around their family.
Yes.
Certainly if they like their family.
So,
and so that was a good call.
Yeah, it is. So I have 2 children. They're from my first marriage. Marilyn is my second and my last. Daniel and Ann. Ann's the oldest. She has given me 2 grandchildren. Amelia, who was 5 2 weeks ago, and Emmeline, who's 2. She'll be 3 this year. So I miss them. They're growing up without Grandpa being around. They touch base by phone, which is nice, but it's not the same. Mm-hmm. But in December, I have my mother's second oldest sister, my Aunt Erla. She'll be 100 in December. So the plan is to go back to Pennsylvania and see a lot of my cousins and, of course, my grandkids, my daughter and my son. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you guys travel back, about once a year? Do you go
About
back?
once a year. We
Yeah.
had a class reunion last year, 47th class reunion from high school. We couldn't have the 45th because of COVID, but it was awesome to see my classmates again, touch base. And I always say, you don't know how you've aged until you go to a class reunion, and you can see how you compare to those you grew up with. Whether they've grown larger, smaller, on medication, not on medication. It's just fun to hear the stories, the memories. But as soon as you see those faces, regardless of the age and the wrinkles, the memories come back. The memories come back.
I had a friend just tell me yesterday that he went up to his 50th high school reunion this past weekend, I guess. And he says, he walked in, he's like, who are all these old people?
That's right. They're as old as me.
But then he realized, he looks the same to them. So, yeah.
But I enjoy having fun. My wife and I, one of the things we like to do is play miniature golf. There's a miniature golf place nearby. Pinball, hike, bike. We have 2 dogs and our boys, and they require a little bit of time. So they get walks twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day.
You like music?
I love music. You and I have talked about that. Luckily, I had an older brother, 2 years older, that was into music at an early age. And he brought home albums. And at that time, they still had reel-to-reel players, 8 tracks. And then cassettes came along. Of course, vinyl records were always the thing. This is just seeing the artwork on the albums and collecting those albums was great. So my brother Kim got into some heavy rock and roll.
Yeah.
And
you still have the big stereo system. I remember carrying one of your speakers into the house.
Yes.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah. So I acquired a nice stereo system. I was in the Air Force in 1978, which is still with me. When the wife's not home, those speakers get a good workout.
The windows are shaking.
But my neighbors haven't complained yet. Besides that, to describe myself, I would say I'm fun-loving, devoted, determined. I'm optimistic. I'm an optimist. I've worked with many people in the past. One guy in particular, it still sticks in my head. We had some tough jobs ahead of us, and the first words out of his mouth were, I can't do that. And I said, I don't know those words. I know I'll try. I'll succeed. But I don't know the words, I can't. That means you've given up before you even started. How can you learn anything? You challenge yourself. The funny thing is, this was an example would be putting in a water heater, taking out an old water heater. Again, maintenance. I'm referring back to maintenance. Taking out an old water heater and putting in a new water heater. If you've never done it, it's a mountain to climb. But once you do 1 or 2 or 3, it's a piece of cake. So the I can't turned into I can.
Yeah.
After a little coaching and teaching.
And for me, it would be YouTube videos.
They're helpful, but they don't give you all the answers.
No, they don't. But Judy and I replaced one of the ceiling fans, and I hadn't done it for a few years, so the video was helpful.
But again, a lot of times it's recalibrate. Challenges come along, recalibrate. So I transitioned. So back in high school, again, I was VOTEC, half day school, half day work. As I graduated, that transition time between high school graduation and Air Force, I think I had 9 jobs. I got employed, got laid off. Employed, got laid off. Again, it was the economy was terrible at that time. I assembled bikes. I fixed lawnmowers. I worked in a weaving mill, 175 looms. I'll never forget it. Heavy insulation in the building. Looms are the weaving machines. There's a lot of lint and dust in the air. And one of the stories I tell, and I'm saying it kind of kindly and politely, is anytime you would sneeze, you'd have it would be rainbow. You'd see rainbow on your tissue, just from the many colors of the looms and the noise. There was no hearing protection. There was no concerns about your lungs. Just get this job done and move on. So 9 jobs, And that was the reason I just had enough of it. I can't make a future doing this. That was the main reason why I went in the Air Force. Just for steady consistency, earn some money, health benefits, get some kind of skill, and move on.
The decisions we make sometimes, often we don't even know it's really an impactful decision until later when we look back. But obviously joining the Air Force when you did, those 4 years put you on a trajectory that, well, it's got you where you are now.
It changed my life.
Yeah, for sure. If you'd have stayed putting bikes together, I mean, how long would you really have done that before you, even if you didn't get laid off, you'd have gotten tired of it probably. And, then what, so yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Another factory job was in a paper box factory for like shoe boxes.
Mm-hmm.
There's the paper, cuts the paper in angles, and then the cardboard comes along, you form the cardboard, and then you wrap the paper around the cardboard, and then you punch holes in the bottom of the box to put string to tie the lid, stack those, and so on and so forth. I remember very well, it was 4 10-hour days. The factory in the wintertime was over 100 degrees in the heating floor and on the assembly floor. So you can imagine in the summertime how hot it was, and you were drained. I mean, you had 3 days off, but that first day, which was Friday, you pretty much just slept to recover. Back at it Monday. Those were the days.
When we talk about these jobs, because I think some of it's generational. Our generation, I mean, we worked, man, and we weren't afraid to take on any job. I mean, I wanted to be a lifeguard. I always thought the lifeguards were cool, and all the girls wanted to come around, and I busted my ass trying to qualify to be a lifeguard, and I finally did, and I got a job. For those people that know, Provo had a city pool, and it was big. So I'd sit up there in my lifeguard tower, and all I was doing? I was babysitting. People would come and drop their kids off, and so I'd be sitting there with my whistle, get off the rope, quit running, no horseplay. I mean, a few weeks of that, and I was like, I'm done. So even though I went through all the hassle of getting that job and qualifying and man, and it wasn't easy. I mean, it was a pretty drawn out process to become a lifeguard there for the city.
But you did it.
I did it. But man, I'm telling you, it wasn't what I had envisioned.
It wasn't the dream job you were looking for.
No, not at all.
So again, referring back to some of the pictures from my scrapbooks that my mother put together, my oldest brother and I, Kim, we in high school we trapped muskrats and raccoons. I hunted white-tailed deer. First year was when I was 16. I got a rifle, Model 94 Winchester 30-30 lever action. That was my first rifle. I bought it myself with my own money that I earned.
Mm-hmm.
Proud of that. I shot a white-tailed deer. I think it was a 4-pointer. The next year was a 5-pointer. The next year was a 7-pointer. And both on the first day, and then the second day of hunting season, white-tailed deer season in Pennsylvania. And then it kind of got away from hunting, of course. And you meet a young lady or two, and your life changes quite a bit.
So you really didn't get away from hunting. But I'll go back to your rifle for a minute. Here you just quoted the model and right. Everything about it. And part of that is because you did save your money and buy it with your own money. Because when you spend your own money on something, it's much more meaningful.
Oh, definitely. Then the first car.
Mm-hmm.
First car was it was a 66 Chevy Malibu.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was a 65 front end, but the rest of the body was a 66. But it was $500. It was a friend knew somebody. I wanted a car. It's all I could afford with the insurance because I had to pay for the car insurance. And it was my baby.
Mm-hmm.
It was mine. It's the only thing I really owned. When I'm in the house, it's my mom's house. I have my clothing, but the car's mine.
Yeah.
And then from there, the second car, 3 years later, was a 1969 Chevy Camaro, which is my pride and joy, and I wish I still had that car.
When I'm talking with someone or listening to their story that's my age or around my time of life, I can't help but just think we were so fortunate to grow up when we did, man. I mean, it wasn't easy all the time, but we had the best music, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We had, some of the best cars, in my opinion.
Definitely.
And even though they might have been, you had to work and save to get them, it was within reach. Whereas now the average new car is like $47,000. So, I mean, hope you don't like something above average, because you better be saving a while.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And I'm talking about the youth.
Incredible.
I'm not talking about so much about us, but the youth today, that the obstacles they encounter just to find a place to live.
Right.
I mean, so many of them aren't even thinking about buying a home. They're just hoping they can find a home they can afford to rent. So, yeah, every generation, like we said, has their tough times. And I recognize that, because my kids are going through that. Your kids are going through that.
Right.
Yeah, but we did have a fortunate time when we grew up. We really did. I feel that way.
So not having a father to guide,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of observed. I observed a lot of things from my neighbor's parents, my neighbor's dad, the coaches in the ball team. Just there was no father figure, so I just kind of like absorbed pieces from whoever I met, and So what I told my kids when they were younger, I said, there's a mother and there's a father for a reason. It provides balance. It gives you the balance in life. Your mother will tell you things. I will tell you things. What you do with that information is up to you. She won't be 100% right. I won't be 100% right. But it gives you that balance. Take what you want and learn the rest on your own. And that's kind of where they're at. And they've succeeded. I'm very proud of where my kids are.
Yeah. Well, I think that speaks a lot to you and to perseverance, right?
Perseverance. Yes, sir. Don't give up. Keep going.
Yeah.
Well, you know how it is. Like if I go out for a run, there's a finish line for me. Is that the other side of the garage door or that fire hydrant? It's not just I'm tired, I'm going to stop. I have a set finish area that I got to get to. That's my goal.
Yeah.
It's trivial. It's kind of silly, but that's me.
Well, so if we were to look at now going forward, are there things that you and Marilyn are wanting to do, or places you want to go or to visit, or?
So long story short, my younger brother, Jack, he's 4 years younger. He's still employed. He's got about 2 more years left. He's back in Hershey, Pennsylvania. He works at Reese's. He's been there 40 plus years. And I tell her,
I was going to say, yes, I've seen some of the candy he has sent out.
So I tell everybody out here, I said, my brother works at Reese's. And I said, if I want any Hershey product, I just pick up the phone, place my order. As box comes in the mail, I open it up and there's magic inside. I'm grateful for that. But anyway, we, since I think 2005, I think it was, 2015. I correct myself. He's been visiting us, and then we go on these journeys. We've been to Northern California. We've been to Montana. We've explored the 5 national parks here in Utah. So he appreciates us hosting him, and he pays his fair share. Though it's no free ride, we all pay a third, and we just hike and sightsee, drive. And the good thing about our journey is each person has input. So say you and I are with your wife, you say, I want to do this, we'll go do that. She says, I want to do this, we'll go do that. I say, we'll all get a say, and we all get to do each other's activity. Because it's something I might not do if it was just me. And you may not do it if it's just you, but with 2 other people, you get, again, the balance comes in, a variety. So we went to Red Rock Canyon on our last visit, then to Death Valley, which I've never been to Death Valley before. It was only 83 degrees at that time, so this was awesome. We went down to Hoover Dam for the second time. Our next trip is going to be back to Yellowstone in September, which will be my 4th time and my brother's 2nd time. Then Grand Tetons, Jackson Hole, Park City for 3 days. And again, just explore, see whatever we see. Just enjoy the time together and the experience.
I've got to ask you, because it's part of my podcast. One of my big loves is Hawaii. Have you guys ever been?
Never been there.
Is it on your list at all?
It's to be honest, probably low on my list.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, that's the one thing that I think I have learned. I've talked to people who have been to Hawaii, and they're like, yeah, it was great, but, I'm good. I don't need to go again.
Right.
Or I mean, I would say things like, oh, I want to live there. Like, oh, man, I visited. I could never live there,
Right.
So I have learned that whatever it is, whether it's a kind of car, whether it's a place to go or a place to live, a type of house, you have all kinds of opinions, and that's okay. I think that's a good thing. It wouldn't be good if we all liked the same things, would it?
Right. No, variety, as they say, is the spice of life.
Yeah.
I would be bored. Like working in a factory. You're just a machine. You're not a person.
Yeah, and one of the things I like about Hawaii is it's not super crowded. If everybody liked it and everybody went there, then that would take away some of the enjoyment.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sure that when you get out to these trips like Death Valley or, even Yellowstone, again, depending on when you go, you can encounter crowds, but you can also have times where there's nobody around.
Yep. So we plan our visits May, when spring starts, flowers are blooming, etc., and September, basically Labor Day weekend or after, because then the crowds are going, everything's still open. We've done that since 2015. So the first visit, my brother came out we went to Lone Peak, just outside of Yellowstone, and it's the top is around 11,000 feet. So you learn things. We took a tour with a tour guide to the top of the mountain, and she explained certain things to us. If you ever drive where there's elevation, you'll see the top of a mountain like Lone Peak is bare. There's no vegetation. At the 10,000 foot level, there's trees and down below. So what we found out was the white bark pine is the tree that grows the highest on the mountain. After that, nothing. So it's just, okay, that's kind of cool. So we get to the top of Lone Peak, and they take you a tram car to take you to the top. Through binoculars, I'm looking around, down and around, and I see a mountain goat below me. This mountain goat, white mountain goat's about 10,000 foot in elevation, just laying there, sunning itself. This is just, it's cool. It's just so cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. And that's his home. And I'm looking down on him. Wow.
Yeah. It's good to get out and see. And most of your trips, other than being in the Air Force, most of the trips that you take are here in the United States. So you're seeing our country, and there's lots to see. Yeah,
there's so much to see. My youngest brother hasn't been. My wife and I have been to Northern California, where she's from, to the Redwoods. We've been to Yosemite 3 times now. To see the giant sequoias. But there's one tree, if you've ever been to the Avenue of Giants in Northern California, a founder's tree. They call it the founder's tree. It was one of the first trees that was preserved from being forested. And we were there several years ago, and the very first branch, I think, was like 107 feet up. So to touch that very first branch, you got to climb pretty high. So you can imagine how big, if you've never been to the Redwoods, you can imagine how big and tall these things are.
I can't remember. Is that General Sherman?
No. That's it. The giant sequoia, Kings Canyon. We were there 3 years ago with my brother.
Yeah.
General Sherman and General Grant.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, we drove our car through it. We got a picture of us driving our car through that hole in the tree.
Right. Yeah. That's nearby. It's the same park.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, again, that's impressive.
Very impressive.
Very amazing. And I hope people have an opportunity, and I'm glad they're being preserved. Mm-hmm. And we need to see more of the preservation, not the destruction. Just hope that people, be respectful of the national parks and the state parks and preserve them for future generations.
Well, I appreciate you taking your time and telling your story today. Do we leave anything out? Anything you want to cover?
I wanted to thank you again for recruiting me for softball. We have many more memories ahead of us.
Yes, we do, and that's been a benefit to all of us. So it's each time we retool our team, because we do it almost on a yearly basis. Some guys will get to the point where they kind of want to maybe retire from softball or whatever, and then other guys are getting old enough to play. And that's such a funny thing to say, but they do it by age brackets. So unless you're a certain age threshold, you can't play in that group. So you're looking like you might have something else you want to say.
Just a couple more thoughts. One of my typical sayings, if it happens, it's meant to be. And a good example would be like you and I talked about earlier, you recruiting me. I might not have played on the recreational softball team. You might not have called up to Cedar City to locate players, but you did. And I was on a team, and I knew the recreational director, so it was meant to be. And so one of the things I tell my kids, and for those that are listening, if I have any advice to you, my last 4 words are have fun and be safe.
I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dean, thanks again, man. Thanks for taking the time and coming across town to tell your story here in my home studio. But it's been fun getting to know you, and certainly, like I say, fun to play on the field, but also just fun off the field, getting to know you and Marilyn. And like you said, there'll be lots of opportunities down the road. I know.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, buddy. All right, everyone. Hey, check back in 2 weeks. We'll have another interesting guest here on Nobody Knows Your Story. Aloha.
Down a little country road not far away, let's talk story. It's where my mama was born, it's where I come from.